This is Victor from VTTV Live, and today we're going to be bringing some Armada quarterly kit events. Now, we started actually at 1 p.m. I was participating in the event because without me there would have been an odd number of players. So the other player had to leave, so that means we're going to go into the second of 2 rounds. This is going to be the final round for today, so we're just going to be streaming one game today. And it's going to be 2 local players. So on the left we have Jason. Jason has decided that he's going to be the first player for this match, and his opponent is a relatively newcomer into the Toronto Armada scene, Robin. Robin has been so I'm going to talk about the lists very briefly. I'm going to have these lists also when I have the video uploaded to our channel on the VTTV Live channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lists in the description. But just briefly right now, Robin has... Sorry, 1 second, guys. So, yeah, Robin has a Liberty, MC30, and looks like 3 flotillas for a total of 5 activations. The Liberty has on it... It's basically like what a lot of people are doing these days with large rebel ships, is just to make a super pickle list. So this has actually been something that Robin's been playing for maybe a couple of weeks now, ever since he's got into Armada. So I think that's just a generally good idea. You know, you see a list you like, you want to just practice it a bunch of times, get a feel for it. Armada is kind of not like a lot of other games where you have to, you can just pick up, you know, a list, maybe play a game or 2 of it, and then you're completely comfortable. With Armada, there's just so many moving parts between the objectives, the squadrons, and the ships, and the different matchups that it really takes. I want to say, like, you know, maybe like a 2 weeks or more of like playing a game and playing games and thinking about your list before I would say that you could really become comfortable with it. So his Liberty it's a Liberty battlecruiser. It's got leading shots, XI7 turbo lasers, engine techs, General Madine, spinal armament, the Mon Cairn title, skilled first officer, and gunnery team. And complementing that Liberty is going to be a MC30 torpedo frigate with ordnance experts, XI7 turbo lasers, and assault proton torpedoes. So a little bit different than the sort of the Carlo munition build that we're kind of used to in Toronto. The Carlo munition build, of course, running expanded launchers to make 3 of its 4 arcs very deadly, and H9 turbos instead of XI7s. And then rounding out the ship component of Robin's list, we have 3 flotillas, 2 of them with CommsNet. Actually, all 3 have CommsNet, and one of them has the Quantum Storm title. So going over to the left side of the screen, we have Jason, who's going to be our player who has the initiative for this game. And he's running an Imperial list with Architons, with Gergerod. I should have probably mentioned that. I think I mentioned already that Robin's running Madine for his Liberty. So yeah, Architons with Gergerod, Captain Nita, and TRC. A Quasar Fire 2, so that would be the more expensive ship, with the Ruthless Strategists, boosted comms and squall. So the Ruthless Strategist, really interesting upgrade on that ship, because the Quasar Fire 2 actually has a red anti-squadron die, so it can attack at long range. And the Squall title allows when it activates, it allows, I can't remember if it's Swarm or not, but anyway, it allows ships to move up to distance 2 before activation, as long as it doesn't move, as long as it's not engaged at the end of its movement. And then boosted comms, of course, because the Quasar Fire 2 especially is a ship that wants to stay as far back afield as possible, and make the most of its red anti-squadron die. And then rounding out that list, we have a Victory Star Destroyer 1 with boarding troopers, external racks. That's a really interesting combination of upgrades there. And 2 Gazanti cruisers, totally naked. His squadron component is Gamma Squadron, 6 TIE bombers. So that's a really cool combo with Ruthless Strategists. 2 generic Lambda shuttles and a Jumpmaster 5000. So Gamma Squadron, I believe, is a TIE bomber. It's one of the ace TIE bombers from the Corellian Conflict Pack, and it doesn't have heavy, and it has grit as well. So he's got 7 TIE bombers, and those are going to be not only making attack runs on Robin's ships, but also there to soak up the damage from the Ruthless Strategist activations. So I'm gonna go in a minute. I'm gonna go and check to see if they have an objective chosen. So yeah, Jason right now, he's just taking a look at Robin's list, and then he's probably going to decide which of, sorry, if he wants to go first or second. Excuse me. Hey, by the way, anyone who's watching, just let me know if you guys need me to speak up or turn up the microphone at all. I'm going to try to commentate this entire game. I know it's 2 hours, 15 minutes long. Some of you may have seen, and if some of you haven't visited our channel, you can take a look at the Armada Canadian Nationals finals we have on this channel as well. That was myself and someone else. Okay, thank you. So it looks like the objective chosen for this this game is going to be Intel Sweep. So I'm going to bring that up on the screen. Cool. All right. So I think we're going to start the timer.
Well, I mean, I'm starting the time. You lose first. You lose one of those. Oh, I want. Oh. Yeah. No. So you resolve the ring. Honor or dishonor? Are you? You have an SD. Wine or rebellion? Now it all makes sense.
Okay, there we go. Start of the round. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Intel Sweep was the objective chosen by Jason. It's a good choice for Jason because Jason has 2 ships with strategic. It's the 2 generic shuttles. And Robin does not have any strategic on his side. All he has is 4 X-Wings and 2 E-Wings. So it looks like the initial obstacle placement is going to be fairly spread out. Of course, after the obstacle placement, that's when both players get to choose which ships are the objective ships. So I'm going to have that, I think, put up onto the screen once we figure out who is going to be. All right, sorry about that. I was just doing a couple of things on
My friend is playing Phoenix.
the dashboard there.
He always bets one all the time.
Because he just uses the whole thing to
Yes, he always does one, and he plays three, the one where he can lower it to zero. He plays the crab where he takes one off. So he just like, and then he plays the thing where you can play right. So he plays the like ring and air, and just take it off. I don't know win by political. Dude, this is the least. That was 5 minutes. Yeah, win by honor. Unless your opponent really not paying attention. Yeah, see, so like you didn't hit the I kill your attack and participate character. I was like, well, I went back to shit for this play. I was like, come on, man. Come on, man. Like, kill something. And then it's like, we get 2 minutes much longer. Hit the threshold of fun. But getting to that is like, I play like the opposite. Please don't dunk on me. I think that I took out. Yeah, well, this. I mean, you got me. I want to go on the bottom. Let's get all my stuff one thing. I mean, like on call line. Oh, I should have been. You had nothing, right? It was like,
Yeah, because they were about to go away.
I was like, I'm playing really well. You're like the lion card.
Yeah, no line.
I should have kept the. I should have just
Yes.
not been greedy with the. I mean, I play such. Need cards to like stabilize. I don't like drop off. Yeah. It's nice to like meet people that play this game. You get tired of playing this game. We were playing Dragon.
I was like,
I played. No, you prefer so you can't because it's like you use.
oh yeah.
Everything's yours.
Okay, so we're about to get underway with this match, and it looks like Jason chose his Architon's command ship to be the objective ship for this Intel sweep mission, and Robin chose his flotilla with the Quantum Storm title. So most of the time with Intel sweep, generally I see it being used with a lot of lists that tend to, be able to have their ships go sideways, kind of like go from like the left to the right side of the board. Maybe they spread their Intel sweep tokens as far as possible. And the most obvious combo with Intel sweep in a lot of objectives now that the second squadron pack has been released for both the Rebels and the Imperials is objective ships. So strategic squadrons. So strategic squadrons have made a lot of those objectives a lot more appealing. And I think Jason was very smart to pick Intel sweep. Taking a look at Robin's list, seeing that it has no strategic squadrons of its own, he can take advantage of moving those tokens towards his side of the board, closer to his Architons, and perhaps picking up the objective for himself. With Intel sweep at the end of the game, all that matters is that you have more tokens to your opponent. So it's not necessary for you to pick up 3 objective tokens. Like what you could do is move the objective tokens into a zone where you have a lot of firepower, kind of daring your opponent to move their objective ship into that zone. And if you obliterate it, as long as you have more objective tokens than your opponent at the time you've obliterated it, or at the conclusion of the match, you just win. Or not win, sorry, you get the 75 points off the Intel sweep. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's an interesting choice. I'm going to have to ask Robin why he went with Intel Sweep as his blue objective, despite not having strategic ships. However, what he lacks in strategic, I think he makes up in pure ship firepower. So the Liberty is very scary with the gunnery team and the XI7s. It can throw a lot of dice at range, and I've seen it delete enemy flotillas from a distance. So generally, I've seen Liberties used as a flanker. You put it on one edge of the board and you kind of like curl in, especially since Robin is using Nadine as his admiral. Can do some really ridiculous power slides with that ship. Kind of make it go where maybe your opponent wasn't expecting it to go. So Jason doing sort of the traditional deploy delay with his squadrons. He does have more squadrons than Robin does, so he's going to basically force Robin to start placing ships before he does. Just kind of get a feel where the main thrust of his force is going to go. So now, looking at, going back to the lists, it looks like between ships and squadrons, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So he has a total of 10 squadrons. Sorry, Jason has a total of 10 squadrons and 5 ships, which means that he gets a total of 10 deployments. Robin, on the other hand, has has 5 ships as well, but only has 6 squadrons, which means that he only has, I believe, 8 deployments. So Jason will out-deploy him. He will probably deploy his Architans last after Robin's put all his ships down. So I think what Jason's aiming to do here with his setup is that he's going to create a wall of bombers, sort of guarding the intel tokens that he's going to try to pull into his side of the board. He's going to try to force Robin to push his squadrons into that ball, and he's going to have the Quasar maybe at long range to start doing those Ruthless Strategists. Now, Ruthless Strategists against a list that has a bunch of 5-hull ships may not be as effective as if Jason was facing, say, a Sloan TIE Swarm or something along that lines. But the damage output of a TIE bomber is very low. I mean, it can be a consistent 1 damage, but it's still just going to be 1 damage, and so an opponent can kind of math out how much damage he can expect to take from it. A typical squadron activation from Jason's side. So another important thing to note, I think, is the speed at which these ships are going at. So it looks like it's kind of hard to tell from this angle. I'm going to switch to another angle here and see what speed both sides are kind of starting at. I think both of Robin's flotillas are starting at speed 1 here, and I think Jason is going to be maybe going at speed 2. I think it's not all that important exactly how fast his Gazanti is going, because he does have a total of 4 relay from his shuttles. I think shuttles. Now I know as far as shuttles go, I mean it's kind of weird that on the Rebel side, the strategic ships like the generic VCXs have been used far more than Hera. I think a lot of people think Hera is way too expensive. And but the generic VCXs for 15 points, you get 8 hull, you get 3 blue anti-squadron dice, and you have strategic and a decent speed. But on the Imperial side, I mean, most of the time when I see a shuttle, I see Colonel Jendon. Now Jendon's very strong. It's basically a mini Rebel Yavaris, in the sense that I see it paired up very well with Saber Squadron or Merrick Steel. Jason has decided to buck that trend, however, and I think it is the right call, because this is basically like his squadron contingent complements his Ruthless Strategist build. I think every ship in that build, with the exception of the Jumpmaster, but the Jumpmaster is also there kind of to push his bombers through an enemy's fighter screen and start bombing his opponent's ships. But everything else on Jason's side has a lot of hull, and he can make really good use of that Ruthless Strategist. So I'm actually really interested to see how he gets, how he ends up using that particular upgrade. So as expected, Jason, he's deployed all his squadrons. Robin's been forced to deploy his ships a lot earlier than Jason, so now he's going to have to put down his 2 big pieces. And where he puts those down is really going to inform, I think, where Jason ends up putting his VSD and his Quasar. His Quasar is probably going to be not too far from his bomber ball. I think that much is fairly clear. It depends on where the VSD is going to go. Like the VSD, it's not very agile, so generally I see the VSD somewhere near the center of the board going straight and fairly slow most of the time. But it really depends on the engagement of the engagement strategy of Robin here. So looks like Robin put his MC30 down at speed 3. Looks like it's hard to tell from the other camera, but looks like speed 3. He doesn't have H9 turbo laser, so it's not going to be a sure thing that he can take out that, he can one-shot that Gazanti that's opposite of the MC30. But he's putting it far enough away from the bomber ball that, especially since Jason doesn't have Major Rhymer, the range of that bomber ball is a little bit restricted. So, you know, maybe Robin's kind of dissuading Jason from putting anything else down on that side. Robin's plan is probably just going to be to snipe that, or try to snipe that Gazanti and then turn into the center of the board to perhaps do a flanking torpedo run on the rear line of Jason's side. So Jason sets up his Quasar. It looks like the Quasar is going at speed 2, and I think this is a really good deployment here by Jason. He's aiming to kind of do a wide arc around the top end of the board there. Now, of course, Robin hasn't put down his Liberty. Robin may just put his Liberty across, in which case Jason's Quasar may be in a bit of a trouble there. But of course, if that Liberty goes there, that means it's going to be in range of all those TIE bombers. So I really like Jason's setup here, and really like what he's trying to do. Of course, he hasn't put down his objective ship yet. Robin's objective ship is the flotilla that's closest towards the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to put up some stickers now, and just to show you guys where everything is. Alright, there we go. So that's the objective ship for Robin there, the red one. So it looks like Robin's going to deploy his Liberty where I thought he was going to deploy, just directly across from the Quasar. So this is going to be Robin's last deployment. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether he deploys just, you know, a very slow speed 1 kind of crawl and make the most use out of that long range armament that the Liberty has, or if he's going to try to just charge into the face of that Quasar. So he's using the station as a bit of a shield. If he goes slow enough, he can even maybe prevent, if the bombers do decide to charge at Liberty, like they're basically going to have to get up right in its face to bomb, assuming it's not on the station, because of the obstruction rule, and then Robin's squadrons can then pounce on in retaliation. But it looks like okay, so Jason is going to be putting his Architon, so that's going to be his objective ship. That's the one with Gergerod on it. So Gergerod makes VSDs and Architects very agile. Really liking how he's setting up here. Pointed away from the MC30, so because because Jason gets to go first, he can kind of manage his distance from the MC30. Usually, when you're the second player, as Robin is, when you're playing an MC30, and I don't know how much choice Robin had in this matter, just because he was out deployed. But I think in a situation like this, you don't want an MC30 to be giving chase just because of the range of its armament. A savvy player is just going to never let you get within black dice range of that of any of ship of theirs. So what I think Jason's actually going to do here is he's probably going to set up his VSD right next to the Quasar on the top of the screen here to maybe combine its firepower with the bombers to try to take out that VSD as quickly as possible.
I just drew it from the phone. I didn't try to do it.
So here we got a little bit of better view of the action here. We got Jason. He's placing his VSD. Okay, so I was wrong. He instead decides he's going to put his VSD at an angle. So all his ships are angled kind of like the same way. I actually like this a lot. That way he's like covering two of his intel sweep tokens on his side. Maybe by turn 2 or 3 he can be even covering his shuttles run at trying to maybe strategic his Robin's intel sweep tokens towards his side of the board. So he went a different way than I was thinking, but I actually really like this setup by Jason here. And I'm just gonna find out in a second what the speed of his ship is. So both players have the same amount of activations, which means that Robin's going to be able to save his Liberty for last, just to see where everyone else activates, which is an advantage for Robin's side because of the long-range armament capability of Robin's ship. So I think the Liberty is going to be a bit more relevant in this game than the MC30 is. Robin does have an opportunity to make his MC30 a bit more relevant, but he's going to have to do a hard turn, either this turn or the next, to just get it into the fight as quickly as possible. He could even go up to speed 4 and charge towards the rear line of the VSD and the Architects. That way he can force Jason to speed up his ships. Right now all of his ships are going at speed 2, which is a fairly brisk clip. It's basically the fastest the VSD can go. And the Quasar and the Architects is generally faster than what I pilot the ships at, especially on an objective like this. But it is a bit of a race. Even though Jason has his shuttles, he's going to have to try to beat Robin to picking up as many of these tokens as possible. Now, Robin's deployment is a bit awkward in regards to his objective ship, just because he is. Yeah, it's just a bit odd in regards to his objective ship because he's going to have to like cut in front of his the rest of his fleet in order to pick up any tokens, which may end up messing up with his activations and his movement. Like his flotillas may start bumping. He may be forced to activate his objective ship sooner rather than later just to get it out of, like, say, the VSD's arc. So it looks like Jason activates his Quasar first. It's a nav command, and it looks like he's Can't tell if he's banking the token or not. Okay, so yeah, so Jason's just describing the use of his Squall ability. So the Squall title allows him to move any of his squadrons up to distance 2 as long as they don't become activated, and that's whenever the ship itself activates. So the ship doesn't even need I believe does not need a squadron command. So because the squadron value of the Quasar is 4, he's going to be able to move a bunch of his ships, like basically 4 of his squadrons, before he moves them. So the power of the generic shuttle, when used in multiples, if you keep them close together, like more so than the Rebel VCXs, it basically allows you to activate 4. You know, if you have 2 generic shuttles next to your ball, your Quasar gets its full activation. So while Jason's activating his ships, I just wanted to kind of describe the match that I played in the previous round. I was playing a Leia Organa Corvette Swarm, and I was trying out something new with the trying to see if I could make the GR-75s into effective carriers, because with Leia Organa, like, her ability allows her to resolve a dial as though it had a matching command token, and that's only if you don't use any tokens for the rest of the round. Like, you're not allowed to afterward. So that if you're just plugging in commands and you're not banking tokens, I mean, that means that your GR-75s are doing Squadron 3 commands, which is really powerful if you decide to go for a squadron complement of a lot of generic ships, like a popular, like an increasingly popular Rebel squadron component is just a swarm of Z-95s, either with or without Lieutenant Blount. Like, it's basically up to the discretion of the player, but you know, with a big squadron ball, like, you're basically doing a Rebel version of an Imperial squadron ball. You want to have a lot of activations, and you want each of those activations to be, you know, more than like 2 squadrons per activation. So that's what I was doing with Leia, and I was pairing her up with some A-Wings, and I was trying something a little bit new with, you know, Corran Horn, which is I know a Rebel squadron staple, but I was trying to see if Han Solo actually, in conjunction with Corran Horn, was going to be effective in this meta where especially a lot of the Imperial players are playing like Sloane, or at the very least are playing like generic TIE fighters, and I think squadrons like Han Solo and Corran Horn are really good at picking off generic fighters on the outside of a squadron ball and then running back to your side. So that's what I was trying to do, and I have the video for that recorded. I wasn't streaming it because I was playing that match, so hopefully I'm going to have that up on our channel within a week or so. But going back to this game, it looks like Jason moved his Squall, and then Robin's just moved one of his kind of like irrelevant flotillas, and he's just moving his styles back. Okay, so it's back to Jason. So the way Jason's set up, I think the 2 next ships he's going to activate are either of the Gazantis, I think, yeah. I think he's going to activate that Gazanti that's between the Squall and the VSD. And I think it was a squadron command that he did on his ship. It was going at speed 2. He's just going to go off to the side of the board. Of course, with those shuttles, that means that Gazanti doesn't have to be anywhere near the action to be able to command or push its squadrons around. Alright, so looks like it was Robin activated another ComSnet flotilla, and he, I think it was a nav command that he put to the Liberty there, and just pushed it up. He's just slowly pushing up his line of ships towards the center of the board. So it looks like maybe turn 2 or 3 is when we're actually going to see some exchange of fire. It all depends on what the Liberty's doing. I think the Liberty's going at speed 3. So yeah, Jason's going to move his other Gazanti. He's still far enough away from the MC-30, he doesn't have to really maneuver around it much. But he did do a nav command, bank the token. Now he's just going to go 2 forward. Maybe looking for an opportunity to use some of those rocks as cover for the approach of the MC30. So Jason just doing a quick check of the range there on that Quasar Fire. Robin maybe realized it's a little too far for that comms net for the MC30, but he is going to activate his MC30 now, and I do believe that's a nav command. He just banked a token on that ship, and he is traveling at speed 3, I believe. Yeah. Now remember, Maydeen can do some really crazy maneuvers, so Robin can just go straight forward like a missile and then do a hard turn at speed 3 or even 4 on the next turn to kind of sweep around the back of Jason's line here. Yeah, so Robin's just doing the trick of choking up on the maneuver tool, which is really useful, especially when you're maneuvering in tight spaces. Like if you're trying to do a 3 maneuver, like you don't have to start at the 0, you can start at the 1, just because all the joints are the same distance from another joint. It doesn't matter where on the tool you use it. Alright, so back to Jason here. Activates his Architons, and he's moving within distance 1 of a token. Of course, he's not going to be able to pick it up until his next activation, as you have to be within distance 1 of the token when you activate the ship, not when you move it. So Robin, in turn, decides to activate his objective ship, and I think it's a nav command. So Robin has to be careful here, because he needs to, if he's going to be picking up any more tokens other than the one closest to him, he's going to have to make a turn towards the top side of the screen, and that's going to kind of expose that GR75 to fire from the VSD, maybe within a turn or 2. But if he turns in too hard, he's going to risk bumping into the rest of his flotillas that are coming up, the other 2 Comsat flotillas. So. So yeah, this is gonna be a move that I think. So he didn't take a token. Like he may even just want to slow down. I don't think you're in a particularly much of a rush to pick up that first token. It's because that's not the token that Jason's gonna go after. But what Jason's probably going to do, he's gonna take his shuttles and pick up, maybe move strategic the 2 tokens that are towards the top end of the board and move them towards his side, so that way Jason's Architons doesn't have to go as deep into Robin's territory to pick up some of these tokens. So it looks like Jason's activating his VSD. He might be slowing to speed 1 actually. Yeah, he's gonna slow and he's gonna go straight towards his opponents. And this is a good move because I think Robin, basically within, I think, 2 turns or so, like all of Robin's flotillas are going to be vulnerable to attack, and maybe that's the strategy you go for here. I'm not sure with the way that you. Well, actually, what you could do, Jason could do, is just have the VSD and the Architins go after the flotillas, and then you just send your entire bomber ball after the Liberty. Now the Liberty looks like it's going to actually, during its activation, is going to turn away from the bomber ball and kind of try to isolate and engage the Quasar there. And Jason does have the first opportunity to move next turn, but because they have the same amount of activations, Robin can move his Liberty into position, wait till Jason activates next turn, and then just activate afterward after he's come within, say, blue dice range. So, especially with Maydeen doing a nav command, Robin can basically do like a very sharp turn and then turn back in to make sure that his front arc is still facing that Quasar fire. So this is a very aggressive move. I like it. Robin just has to be careful about that bomber ball. I know he was just checking the range to see exactly how far that bomber ball could go. What he has to take into account though is that the Quasar can use its squall ability to push those squadrons a lot farther than one would imagine, to just basically close the distance super quickly between the 2 sides of the board there. There's so many options with Maydeen, so many ticks on the dial that you could do. You still have the problems of a large base ship. I mean, the thing can fishtail like crazy, so you have to be careful about, swinging your rear into a rock or crashing into another one of your ships. Now that obstacle that he just overlapped is the station, so it's not that big of a deal. But he set up his he set up his ship to really take advantage of that sort of front arc. And I'm not sure what that second measurement's for, but I think a lot of you know that you can't really use your maneuvering tool in that manner, unless he's engine teching. Yeah, it looks like he's engine teching. Okay, so my bad. He was indeed just checking his engine tech move. So he's aggressively positioned his Liberty so that all he has to do is wait for Jason to get into blue dice range, because unless Jason uses that nav token and slows down, and even if he slows down, I mean the angling of the camera is kind of weird. It's hard to tell if he's already in blue dice range no matter what Jason does. But anyone who's played a Quasar knows that they are very good at pushing squadrons, but they don't stand up to sustained fire for very long. So Jason is doing the squadron phase, and because he gets to activate first, he gets to move his shuttle within range of that objective token, and he gets to strategic it back to his side of the board, and that's really good because it forces Robin's squadrons to basically find a way to it forces Robin's squadrons to not hang back, to push up and engage with Jason's squadrons. So objectives like objectives like the intel sweep became a lot more dangerous, especially with the release of the new squadron pack. So Toronto area Armada has been a community of very like tight knit, like it's been a tight knit community of a lot of friendly players that are very welcoming to newer players. And Jason has been a staple for maybe about 6 months now. He only really makes it out to the Sunday Armada events at 401, but he's always been very friendly. Really impressed with the builds that he brings out. It's like stuff that you wouldn't see. Because one of the things about like I think any meta or play group is that you have to kind of actively prevent groupthink. So a lot of us come up with fleet ideas. Like for example, the one that's the hotness right now I think is the Sloan Squadron fleet, which was piloted by Norm to win the Canadian Nationals. That was like sort of built as a response to the Rican Aces list. And Sloan has a really good ability. I think that's legitimized the use of huge TIE Fighter squadron balls, and I think that's really cool because it's thematic. That's something you expect Imperials to do, and I think Jason's actually found a list that sort of has the spirit of like the Imperial squadron ball, except he's using TIE bombers instead. And so I think that's really cool, and we're looking forward to seeing what Jason ends up doing with this match. Now, on the other end of the table, Robin, he's Liberty, the Liberty MC-80. I think it was a ship that a lot of people were excited to see. It's been a fan favorite, throughout the release of the movies, and if any of you played like the TIE Fighter games or the X-Wing games, that ship's made an appearance there as well. So, but when it came out, it was basically a Rebel Star Destroyer, but it didn't really it wasn't as effective as a Rebel Star Destroyer because his movement's kind of janky, and while it does have 2 braces, it doesn't have the same amount of hull points as an Imperial Star Destroyer does. So it's been struggling to find a place in the list, and Maydeen is an obvious choice. It was a commander that came with the ship, but at the same time, there were just far better options for rebels. Like probably the most effective rebel list besides Rican Aces is just the MSU build, right? And aside from the MSU build, actually the second most popular list next to Aces is the Super Pickle, the so-called Super Pickle, the Akbar MC-80 Home 1 variant. A ship that actually lay fallow for a very long time, I think until maybe about last year or so, when the release of especially like the strategic squadrons allowed a list that carried had a Christmas tree Super Pickle, so just loaded up with upgrades, and a bunch of flotillas. Now that you had strategic, well, you could bid for second player, and because you had 6 activations, you had a bunch of squadrons, and you had this sort of no-fly zone around your MC-80, well, you just basically took objectives that force your opponent to come to you and deal with your extremely tough-to-kill and hard-hitting MC-80. So I think we're going into turn 2 now. Looks like, looks like all the squadrons maybe have activated, or yeah. And so Jason's just holding fast with his TIE bomber ball there, and why not? Because between his squall ability and the agility of the TIE bomber, you don't really need to advance on the board during the squadron phase. You can just wait to see what your opponent does, and you could just jump your opponent during the next turn. So yeah, hanging back with your TIE bombers, making sure that they're within the flak zones of your capital ships, because I think if you're going to run TIE bombers in a swarm and you want them to be effective as like in an anti-squadron role as well, you have to combine them with your anti-squadron flak from your capital ships. Because of the damage output of 1 black die for a TIE bomber when it comes to anti-squadron, it does really need to be paired with something. So a lot of people use raiders. One really cool squadron composition I've seen is a bunch of TIE bombers combined with Valen Rudor. Because the TIE bombers have heavy, they normally can't lock down ships, but if you fly them with Valen Rudor, your opponents can't attack Valen if they're engaged with another ship, and that includes a heavy ship. So Valen's pinning them down. And but they can't shoot at the one non-heavy ship. They have to shoot at all the other ships first. So that's a really cool squadron component, because you can do something like Jason's done here with his Quasar Fire 2. You can do the same sort of idea with a bunch of bombers in Vale and Rudor. But I really think that there's been a lot of experimentation lately with squadron compositions, especially in the Toronto area, and I'm really excited to see what's being used. So like we've seen the metagame kind of shift from all aces to sort of a mixture, especially with Sloan lists, of a combination of ace anchors with a bunch of generic pilots, and then I've also seen a response on the Rebel side going towards like more straight up generic fighters like what Robin has. Yeah, Robin's just mentioning to Jason that he's still experimenting with his squadron composition. He's trying to figure out how many VCXs he'd need to activate his squadron ball. So I think the Imperials have it a little bit easier in that regard. Starbat 861, yes, I can see the chat. So if you have any questions about the match or Armada in general, free to ask in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer you. So at the top of round 2, Robin, I think very wisely, has decided to capitalize on Jason's strategic gambit here by trying to jump on the shuttle, try to take it out as quickly as possible before it has a chance to activate more fighters. So Jason may have secured the intel sweep objective. He may be scoring 75 points, but it may cost him the flexibility to activate his squadrons from any one of his ships if he loses both of his shuttles here. My game was sorry, Starbase. Yeah, my game, I was playing against Christian. So Christian was the 2016 Armada Canadian National Champion. He's known as playing nothing but Imperials. So some of you who play X-Wing may recognize Christian as the developer of the Rush Hour list. So it's a X-Wing list that runs a bunch of TIE bombers with Tactician and all that. He's been playing Sloan. He played Sloan today, and I squared off against him. I was playing my Leia Corvette build. I was actually really happy with how the squadron continued to perform. I made a couple of mistakes, which resulted in me losing, but it was only a 6-5 loss. So it was because I mispositioned my Leia Corvette. I lost her, but I had scored so many fire lanes. Fire lanes was the objective in our game. I scored so many fire lanes points that it came out so that I think he only came out 40 points ahead after the tally was finished. So if he didn't take out my Leia Corvette, because he got lucky with I think it was Colonel Jendon bombing my shuttle in the last round. If he didn't get one damage on my Corvette would have lived, and I would have won 6-5. So it was actually a very close game, and I was really happy with how my squadrons performed. I was trying out a squadron list that was running Han Solo and Corran Horn, basically as a way to snipe with Han's ability of First Strike and Rogue, and Cornhorn's snipe ability, basically to try to pick off generic TIE fighters in like a Sloan ball on the fringes of an opponent's squadron ball, and then run back to my side. So it was a huge success. I ended up killing every one of his squadrons with the exception of Jendon, and I think I lost all my generic guys, and I think my Han and my 2 VCXs remained. So I think I won the squadron war in that fight. Yeah, that's right. He had a victory demo Sloan list. Excuse me. So I think we're still waiting on Jason to activate something here. It doesn't look like any of his dials were flipped off, but I think he's just trying to check to see exactly how many of his TIE bombers are within the relay range of his shuttle. You know what? I'm mistaken. It looks like he actually he activated his Gazanti. I think it's the Gazanti. I can't tell which Gazanti it is, but yeah, he moved his shuttle back towards the safety of his TIE bomber ball. Starbat, it's a variation of my list. So the change he made, he basically dropped. I think he dropped one of the TIE fighters. I can't remember which one. Yeah, he dropped Black Squadron, and so he's only running 9 squadrons. He's not running Reimer, he's running Jonas instead. And the reason for Jonas is because he upgraded his Gladiator to a GSD-2, just so that it could basically act like a flotilla killer in conjunction with Jonas. And his VSD is actually a VSD-2 with disposable capacitors and QBT. So he's running decaps instead of expanded hangar bay. So his list is a bit less squadron oriented, and it's more synergistic. It's more ship oriented. So his GSD is playing a bigger anti-squadron role, and he's running a GSD-2 just because the side arcs have red dice, so that when Jonas is within range 1 of an enemy ship, the Demolisher can change the side arc red dice to an accuracy. Yeah, so anyway, back to that game. That was Jason's first activation. It was indeed the Gazanti he activated, and he just he moved he moved his one shuttle that wasn't tied down back to his side, and yeah, he moved the TIE bomber on. Yeah, sorry, he did have Agent Callus on his GSD-2. Okay, so this is Robin activating. He's activating his MC-30. Now, at first I thought that was kind of odd, but it looks like what he's trying to do here is he's trying to blockade that Gazanti, which is actually a pretty smart move, because depending on what Jason did with his command there, if he even if he did navigate, I think the thing is, like, the Gazantis, they tend to be clumsy enough so that if a savvy opponent can position his ship just right, it's you're basically preventing that Gazanti from moving at all, and you can force it to run into you, and then hopefully if you get an accuracy, you can just delete that Gazanti with your black dice shot. Oh yeah, Jordan killed you with that Sloan list is popular. I'm telling you, I like the fact that it's popular, because I think for the longest times, like, Imperials have been struggling, like, with a good squadron heavy list that can deal with Rican aces and super pickles too. And I think it's not an easy list to play. Like, you still need to be able to push your squadrons effectively, but at the same time, I think I think the two popular Imperial archetypes right now are, number one is like the low activation ISD Mahdi 2-ship list that came in second for Gen Con, and this Sloan list. I think those are the two big contenders. That being said, I'm like interested to see how Jason performs with this list. He is actually the top seed going into this round. He ended up with 8 points in the last round playing Troy, I think it was. I don't remember what Troy was running, but Troy usually runs a rebel list of some sort. Okay, so this looks like the Architans is activating here, and it looks like a 2. Okay, so is he TRCing? I can't tell. It looks like 2 accuracies, yeah, and then he's gonna TRC that. Okay, so I think he's obviously gonna accuracy the 2 evades for the MC30, which means those 2 hits are going through. So actually, that was probably the best roll he could have hoped for in that circumstance. And of course, Jason picked up that objective token with the activation of that ship as well. So as of this moment, Jason is actually ahead. I think he's ahead. So this might be Jason, I think, did a navigate command. I think he's going to slow down to first, yeah. This is a couple of people. Is Travis, the other half of VTTV Live. He's playing. He's play testing some L5R games ahead of Worlds because he's going to Worlds this week or this coming week. He's gonna be playing L5R Netrunner. Whereas for us, we're gonna have to wait another five or 6 months before we get our shot at Worlds again. So, I'm hoping a lot of the Toronto guys end up going this year too. I mean, I went in 2016. I didn't go this year. It was unfortunate that I ended up having to play. I think it was of the 4 rounds I played 3 Canadians, and 2 of those Canadians were actually people that I traveled up with in Toronto. So I played a Toronto metamate round 1, and then I played a Toronto metamate round 4. And I think we both knocked each other out of the top 4 contention after that game. So kind of a bummer, but yeah, I'm hoping Wave 7 comes out in time for regional season. So we have the regionals happening at February 10th, I think, here at 401 Games of next year. Hello, Russia. How are you? Thanks for watching. It's cool to see that we got some Russian Armada fans as well. Actually, one of the things I'm really interested in is learning, because Armada, more so than any other game, I think, is it's so dependent on like who you play with. And I think, for example, like I was saying earlier, that the Toronto meta is extremely squadron heavy, but I know there's like a lot of other places that they only play like fighter screens. They don't play like full squadron heavy lists. Some people are toying with like, you know, all ship lists even. I'm really surprised to learn that 2-ship Madi list did really well, especially with the way everyone thinks around here that, you know, either you do a lot of activations or you're not going to win. So I'm really pleasantly surprised actually that a low ship list managed to make it that far as they did in Gen Con. Yeah, Kolami, we really want to get more Armada games on this channel. Armada is probably one of my favorite FFG games. I do play a couple of other FFG games. Like I don't play any X-Wing, even though we do a lot of video content for that. But you know, Armada is something that I kind of think about a lot when I'm building fleet lists and figuring out strategy for objectives and all that stuff. So always excited when you can get a bunch of people out to play some Armada as well. So it Jason looks like he's trying to yeah, he's trying to figure out if he can get that Gazanti around that MC80 or sorry MC30 because the MC30 is yeah because the MC30 is doesn't have expanded launchers. The front arc is actually relatively safe. I mean, as safe as a black dice torpedo boat can be, but yeah. This looks like a squadron activation from that second Gazanti. He's gonna push his shuttle. No, I guess not. That looks like his jump master. I think. Yeah. Maybe he's just worried that Robin's gonna send some of his fighters to come in and try to lock down his bomber ball there. But yeah, the important thing is you want to keep you want to be able to keep your TIE bombers within long range of your quasar to make use of that ruthless strategists. So Starbat, you said your list is 2 ISDC with Vader, so the new ISD, right? The one that has the bunch of red dice, the Simon refit. Yeah, I'm really so one of the things I want to build when the Wave 7 comes out, I think, is going to be a Simoon, maybe not 2 of them, but like 1, basically an Imperial version of a Super Pickle. So you put a Simoon with Vader as your commander, because the Simoon doesn't have an ion cannon slot, so you can't play leading shots. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to do. I want to be able to play with gunnery team and Vader, and just maybe even the Devastator title, and just use it as a long range artillery ship. Alright, so let's see if he actually manages to make this maneuver here. That's close. Oh, he made it. Okay, good. I mean, the problem is, though, he's now double arced. So now Jason is first player next turn. So what he can do is he can activate that ship first and get it out of. If he does a navigate command, he can try to get it out of harm's way. I mean, but if you're trying to, I think your bigger priority is, if you want to save anything, you want to save the Quasar. Yeah, sorry, I don't speak Russian very well. Hopefully without the language barrier, that you can kind of tell what's going on. We're trying to make things as clear as possible. So the numbers on the ships are they're indicating which ship is the objective ship for the intel sweep. So it looks like Robin picked up one of his own objective tokens. So as of right now, I believe they're both tied for objective tokens. It's hard to see from this angle, but I'm going to switch over to the other angle. It looks like there's still those 2 objective tokens right next to Jason's ship. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for Jason to pick up the 3rd objective token, but of course he does have the he does have the shuttles to move those tokens around. All right, I just had to run that through Google Translate. Is that the Russian national anthem? All right, so Jason just activated his VSD. Ripper 998. This is turn 2. So I think they're in the middle of turn 2. There's a few more activations on either side. So both squadrons haven't really engaged yet. Robin hasn't really activated his squadrons, I think, to maybe try to shoot down that shuttle that's jumped so far ahead of Jason's line. So I think what Okay, so Robin banks a squadron token here, and he's just gonna go ahead. He's gonna try to use that. He's gonna try to use that piece of debris as cover. Now, what that means, though, is that at some point he's gonna have to run over it. So if he does speed up, I think not next turn, but the turn after, he can dodge it. But the bigger problem is the VSD front arc that's barreling down on his position. So I think that all that Jason has left is his Quasar, right? Yeah. So he's gonna activate it. Now I think he's just trying to check for Squall. And as we thought, like Jason kept his, sorry, not Jason, Robin kept his Liberty in reserve here, and well, I mean with the amount of dice that Liberty is throwing, and it does have XI7 turbo lasers as well, which makes that Quasar fires redirect kind of useless. And if he gets an accuracy for Jason's brace, it's possible. It's possible that he just one-shots the Quasar here. So this is the Squall activation here, just pushing some of those TIE bombers towards the Liberty, because you have to threaten it somehow. And I don't know if he actually punched in a squadron command with this Quasar. It's hard to tell. Okay, looks like a long-range shot on the Liberty with the VSD's, sorry, the Quasar's battery armament. Looks like a whiff there. And I think it looks like a flak here, long-range side arc. I think it's in range, perhaps. I think we're going to stick on this camera because right now the action is so far to the top of the screen of the other camera that it's going to be a lot more awkward to have that going on. Oh. Little nudge there. I think that was just him forgetting to maybe push like another squadron school wall. I'm gonna ask to see what's going on.
Still scared.
Yeah, he just forgot to activate some of his fighters, so we're gonna let him do it. It's a casual game night kit. So I think this is just a flak here, is it? Yeah. So he attempted to flak, and then he's using the Ruthless Strategist to put a damage on his own shuttle, I think, to deal a damage on, looks like the X-Wing there. So I think if this Quasar survives this turn, which I mean it's we're gonna have to see if that is indeed the case. But what he's gonna do here, it looks like, is he Jerjerotting? So he might be using Jerjerot here to do a sharp turn. But I don't think you wanna do that. Maybe you. So it looks like with this maneuver, he's gonna maybe slow down to speed 1. No, he's jumped to speed 3. So he's jumped to speed 3. Robin's Liberty hasn't activated yet, so this is gonna be a world of pain when he when he activates his list. So so this is gonna be, yeah. So many dice that Robin needs to borrow it. So here's the front arc shot. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's that accuracy I was talking about. So yeah, hits the brace. 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So XI7 prevents him from redirecting. So this is gonna be huge. I think that kills it. Actually, maybe, or maybe not. I think that's just 1 short. Yeah. So he is going to be taking a critical hit here. Yeah. Yeah, that was a 1 shot. That was what I was afraid of. If he gets close enough to that Liberty, with the combination of XI7 turbo lasers and the accuracy that he was likely to get there, that might have killed it. So yeah. What was it? Depart armament? Yeah, can't attack at long range. So I think the Quasar lives for 1 with 1 HP left. But if Robin is aware, I think all he has to do really is just like ram his Liberty into that ship, and then that's it. Yeah. And I don't even think Robin has a choice but to ram him. I mean, I know Maydeen is a thing. If he really wants to get out of the way, he can. But I think the smart play is just to take that piece off the board by ramming the ship. Ripper 998, the Liberty has it's a bunch of stuff. So it has a XI7 turbo laser. It has now I think it also has. Yeah, here we go. It has XI7 turbo laser, it has spinal armament, the Mon Cairn title, engine techs, General Maydeen, skilled first officer, and gunnery team. So it is a flotilla eater, and I think what Robin's going to do here, he's just going to ram him. You just ram. If you ram, then what you do is you're going to take out. What you're taking out is, number one, there's a lot of points in that ship, but basically the way Jason's built his list, he's basically built it around the Quasar Fire with the Ruthless Strategists and the TIE Bombers. So now he can't push the TIE Bombers with the same efficacy that he could with the Quasar Fire still around, which may actually increase the survivability of Liberty here in this scenario. Yeah, it's just gonna be speed 2, but because he rammed Jason's. Oh, yeah. So they're just trying to see if the Liberty indeed moved at all. So that's going to be a dead Quasar Fire. So the Quasar Fire was worth 72 points. So that's going to be 72 points in Robin's favor. So I think that was a bit of an inevitability there. Jason putting his Quasar there so early let Robin sort of maybe because he put his Quasar there early, like Robin basically saw it as easy pickings. Maybe if Jason, I think, had accelerated speed 3 and gone lateral, I don't know if that was just delaying the inevitable in that scenario, but now I think what Jason needs to do is try to rally his Gazantes to try to take out that Liberty just by swarming it with bombers. Now Liberty's, the Liberty battlecruiser that Robin's running, it does have 2 black anti-squadron dice, which you still have to chew through a lot of TIE bomber hull, but at least the damage is consistent. So that was the conclusion of the ship phase for turn 2, and now we're going to go into the squadron phase, starting with Jason. Jason has to activate 2 of his TIE bombers, and I think maybe he's going to just jump in front of the Liberty, perhaps. No, he's just going to slowly push him forward. It's still unclear as to which target Jason's going after. If he's going to swing back around towards the flotillas, or if he's just going to charge at the Liberty. So with 1 activation down on Jason's side, there's going to be a bit of a buffer for Robin to kind of see how Jason activates his ships before he activates his own. And Robin has a couple of options here. With Maydeen, he can do a sharp turn into the center of the board to try to maybe attack the VSD next, or he can try to take out that flotilla that's on the far end of Jason's side. Okay, so looks like 1 damage there on an X-Wing's attack against that shuttle. Shuttle's now down to, I think, 5 or 4 HP there. So we're down to a little less than an hour remaining, going into turn 3 at the conclusion of this round. So it doesn't look like we're going to get through all 6 rounds. It really depends on how the squadron game ends up shaping up. If Robin can maybe kill off 2 or 3 TIE bombers and then just rabbit, he would, because the TIE bombers are heavy. Basically, almost all of Jason's squadrons are heavy, with the exception of the Jumpmaster. So it's going to be very hard for Jason to lock down fighters if he needs to lock them down to, say, prevent them from running back to the station that's on Robin's side to heal up, or just simply run away if he thinks that he can save the points by doing so. So Robin's going to be moving his X-Wings just to try to intercept that TIE bomber there. So If Jason takes the remaining objective tokens and secures the intel sweep, he's still in the lead. However, that that Liberty is still barreling down on his Gazanti at least, so he's going to have to become a little bit more aggressive, I think Jason is, if he's going to hope to win this match. Going into the top of round 3 now. Or turn 3, rather. So one of the things Jason can do with with his VSD is if he's plugged in the correct commands, or if he's I can't remember if he's got CommsNet on either his Gazantis. I don't think he does, but he could speed up to speed 2 and try to intercept the 2 GR75s that are heading towards Jason's end of the board. If you can take those out, both those ships are both worth 20 points each, I believe, because it's an 18-point GR75 plus a 2-point CommsNet upgrade. So that's going to be an additional 40 points that he can secure. If he can do that and minimize his losses in the squadron fight, then I think Jason has a chance of perhaps winning. It really is up to whether or not Robin can take out the Gazanti on the left side of the screen with his MC30. He does have a double arc, so could be likely. Now, Jason does activate first, and there's no other ships that are really in danger of becoming destroyed if he doesn't activate that Gazanti first, so that may be the first thing that he activates this turn. I want to give a shout out to one of the players, Troy. They brought the playmat that you're seeing on the screen now. It's a custom-made 6-foot by 3-foot playmat. We were VTTV Live. We had the 2 of the Ultimate Guard playmats, but I think we misplaced one of them. So we were originally forced to use the glossy vinyl 401 Games playmats, which while it has some really cool art, the glare on them, especially with the overhead lights, really messes up with the pictures. So Troy was generous enough to lend use of his playmat for use on camera for this match. So I think we're still, is this turn 3? Yeah. So I believe this is going to be this is an activation by the Gazanti that's in the crosshairs of the MC30. He moves his first shuttle up just so that he can use the relay for his bombers, and then the second shuttle he's going to try to attack. Looks like that X-wing squadron, or no, that's a A-wing squadron. Nope, X-wings it is. Looks like that X-wing squadron's down to like maybe 3 HP, something like that. And I was mistaken. It wasn't the Gazanti that was right next to the MC30. It was the Gazanti on the other side of the board. It's an interesting decision. So he's gonna think he looks like he's going to accelerate to speed 3, and he's going to try to maybe swing wide enough that yeah, he's going to try to swing wide enough to maybe force Robin to fork. Like, if the Liberty chases after that Gazanti, well, then it's out of position for the rest of the game. But I don't think Robin's going to take the bait. I think he's going to try to cut back into the center of the board and start dueling with the VSD. That's what I would do anyway. So it looks like a concentrate fire command that he decided to take a token on. Yeah, okay, so looks like a front arc attack. Didn't get any accuracies with that roll, so Jason scatters, and now here's the side arc attack here. If he gets at least one accuracy, he does have Ordnance Experts on that ship. If he does get one accuracy, it's quite possible he just deletes this Gazanti here, which is going to be a boon because that Gazanti hasn't activated yet, and there is the accuracy. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, accuracy the scatter, and yeah, so if you accuracy Gazanti, all you need to deal is 4 damage. So that is a gone Gazanti, and just like that, it looks like Robin's now up 5 activations to 3. So Jason's going to be forced to activate the rest of his ships a lot sooner, giving Robin a much bigger positional advantage here. So it looked early on that Jason had this game under control, but unfortunately the Quasar wandered too close to the Liberty's front arc and just got blown away. Whoops, sorry. So that is an additional 23 points for Robin there. So Robin's winning 95-0. The speed of the MC30 right now is at speed 3, I believe. So he still has to make a maneuver, and he does have a token, so he can choose to slow down if he wants. But I think one of the things he wants to try to do is dodge the side arc of that Architins there. But once the MC30 is like in this position, it's going to be hard for him. But again, it depends on how fast the VSD going. I believe the VSD slowed to speed 1. So if the MC30 can get right up in the rear of that VSD, if that VSD doesn't have a navigate command, it's not going to be able to escape the black dice arc of the MC30. So as I was saying earlier, Robin's been practicing with this particular list a lot, and I think we're starting to see that pay off with his positioning, sort of his playing and everything. He's actually been doing a lot of things that I've haven't been able to predict properly, so kudos to him for sure. And it looks like he spent the token to slow down to speed 2. So maybe he thought he couldn't escape the side arc of the Architins, and maybe wanted to manage his distance enough that he could still use his evade tokens when the Architins attacked. Okay, so he's activating the Architects now as a navigate command, and I think he's just checking to see if he can grab the further token. Doesn't look like he can, so that's going to be 2 tokens for. Yeah, that's going to be 2 tokens for Jason. So he still has to pick up 1 more token to secure the Intel sweep here, the Intel sweep objective. But I do think that, barring really anything else, he's at least not going to lose the objective. It remains to be seen whether or not Robin's GR75 can grab the objective token that's on the far right of the screen. But as of now, Jason has the objective secure. So he's just doing a side arc shot against the. He's doing a side arc shot against the MC30, and he's going to use TRC here, and I think go for 2. It's hard to see. He kind of rolled dice off screen, so it's hard to see what he rolled there. Looks like he rolled. He rolled originally a double hit and a single hit, and he TRC'd to another double hit. And he's going to force the reroll Robin with his evade token. Looks like he rerolled into a crit there. So that's 4 damage coming through. Now, I don't think that Robin's MC30 has the admonition title, so he's not going to be able to sacrifice a token to get rid of one of those damage. So now he's going to have to redirect again. And he did take, I do remember him taking, I think it was 2 damage earlier that he had to redirect. So we'll see if he's actually going to end up taking any hull at this point. Okay, so it looks like Robin had enough shields remaining on his ship to completely absorb all the hits, but I do think his shields are almost drained on the forward 3 quadrants. So again, as a reminder, I will be putting up the list for both players in the description of this stream video on YouTube, as well as later when we upload it as its own video. I'll make sure to put the lists as in the description of the video as well. Okay, so it looks like Jason decided he was just going to turn away. Maybe hoping that the TIE bombers would take out that GR75 before it managed to pick up that last token on Robin's side. If Robin does manage to pick up that token, then it's not going to be a... They're going to both have 2 tokens each, I believe, which means that nobody's going to be claiming that Intel sweep objective. But if Jason can stop Robin from grabbing that last objective token, Jason will end up with 75 points here. So now Robin's deciding what his next move is going to be, and it looks like he's going to activate his objective ship. So I think this is going to be a nav command here. No, it looks like a squadron command. So it looks like Robin's going to try to take out perhaps that shuttle. And if you take out that shuttle, I mean, it looks like all the TIE bombers are kind of like in the middle of the board with no close support. So if you can take out some of these relay ships here, he stands a good chance of like severely nerfing the offensive firepower of Jason's squadron contingent. So that looked like 3 hits there for that ship. And it doesn't look like Robin's going to move, but he's going to attack with another X-wing, and that's going to be a dead. It's going to be a dead shuttle. So that's another 15 points for Robin. So at this point, I think what Robin can safely do is just avoid the VSD altogether. Maybe try to take the liberty and go off to try to go flotilla hunting, maybe farm some additional points, because at this moment, if the game were to end, I think Robin would win 110 to 75 actually. So Jason does technically have 75 points for the time being, until Robin can get close enough to that objective token to cancel out the intel sweep. So he went to speed 3. He landed on the station, overlapped one of his squadrons. Not a big deal. He's at his current speed. He would, because this is turn 3 now. He may be able to pick up that token by the start of turn 5. Because turn 4, he's going to move into distance 1 of that token, and then turn 5 he'd activate again. Now, with 35 minutes remaining on the clock, it really depends on whether they start turn 5 before the time runs out. If Robin can do that, then I think he can. His lead would basically jump by a factor of maybe 75 points. I think generally gets you, like if it was 75 points to 0, that generally gets you, I think, a 7-4 victory. Because I think it's 60 points and below that gets you a 6-5. So he would experience a significant increase in margin of victory if he was able to do that. So it looks like the VSD did a repair command, just banks the token. I think maybe Jason was expecting the VSD to undergo bomber fire. But yeah, Jason's just been ignoring that shit, really. So it looks like a side attack against the MC30 here. Looks like 2 hits, or maybe it was accuracy and a hit, perhaps. He might be accuracying the. No, he used both evades already. So Robin's just going to redirect to the left side of that MC30. I'm just going to go quickly check, see how many shields that MC30 has. So it actually looks like that MC30 has 1 shield left on the left side of its hull and on the rear. So depends on what Robin does the next turn, but it's quite possible that Robin can't get out of the side arc of the Architans. It will have use of its evade tokens, but with its shields drained on its right side, it may not be able to, especially if Robin gets if Jason gets a lucky roll with his TRCs, like. Robin could be suffering some critical damage, and even with a lucky shot, maybe he loses his MC30. Jason's VSD, one of the few VSDs I've seen that still has its vertical antenna still intact. I remember, so I got into the game right at the beginning, in 2015, right when the set came out. It was just the core set for I think like 3 months before Wave 1 dropped. And a lot of people were just saying like, you know, literally maybe 2 weeks after they purchased their product, just the antenna on the VSD just snapped off.
That is very true.
Sometimes I just sacrifice start or side question with the trigger on the back.
Is it trigger? No, it's just an ability. You just put the ability on the back.
Yeah, put the ability on the back. Yeah, I'd probably think of it as smaller. Think that it's sort of okay. Like at most I would get it at like 8 times.
MCA had a concentrated fire, which runs everything, and we have that.
So it sounds like Robin's activated maybe his ship.
So the way it works is that
Yeah, so it was Liberty, the Liberty activated. It was a concentrate fire command, and I think he just banked the token because nothing's in range, and yeah, it looks like he's going to go flotilla hunting with that ship, or maybe not. It is tempting to try to broadside flak those TIE bombers, but he's going to need to support that with some squadron commands to push his X-wings into position. That way, they're engaged. I mean, I know Jason has an intel ship, but if you spread your ships out enough, if you spread your squadrons out enough, that intel ship can't disengage all of the X-wings from the TIE bombers. So yeah, it looks like maybe he's. If he turns that way, if he turns towards the center of the board, but not too much. He's hedging his bets a bit. So it looks like he's slowing down here with maybe a squadron or sorry, a nav token here. Yeah. He's gonna slow and then turn a bit. So I think he's just signaling that he's not going to be able to catch that Gazanti, but he wants to try to get the Liberty to start flacking the TIE bombers, see how many of those he can take out before the game ends.
But now, Sunrise Seeker no one can take it.
they even take the Sunrise Seeker and top.
Oh, you take the whole pile.
So piles can get pretty big. You gotta think about what colors are in that pile. You gotta think about all the cards in that pile. You can
That's interesting.
yeah.
And we go until
We go until all those are good.
but we end up with between the two of us.
But we will hopefully end up with we're drafting 84 cards. You need to make a
But it's but the thing is, yeah,
so like for
it's a
example,
net equal game. For every card less than I get.
So it looks like the other game concluded. So now it's just this game left. Very very quiet. Sort of atypical day at 4-1 games here. Usually it's a lot louder with a lot of the Magic players playing and whatnot. It's kind of good for me because I don't have a table mic, so I can kind of I can hear sort of what the players are saying. I'm trying not to speak too loud, but looks like Robin might be. He's trying to snipe, I think. Trying to snipe the shuttle with his E-wing. so here comes a snipe attempt on the TIE Bomber. 3 dice. It's like a reroll. No. 1 damage. So Robin still proceeding to crawl up slowly with those GR75s, but yeah, I think he's trying to manage his distance with the Victory. The Victory Star Destroyer. It's the Victory 1, so it has black and red dice. It also has external racks and boarding troopers. So if it gets close enough, it can possibly try to boarding troopers to spend defense tokens. It doesn't seem like the best use of boarding troopers to do it against a flotilla, especially if you don't have something like Avenger to prevent them from using spent defense tokens. But at the same time, now Robin's kind of offered up that flotilla to the VSD. So I think Jason next turn is going to try to activate his VSD first and try to take that out. But he only has 3 red dice, and it's not a sure thing that he's going to get that accuracy off the 3 dice. So maybe Robin thought that was a safe enough risk to take there. So I believe we're at the squadron phase now. And Jason's going to throw as many of his TIE Bombers as possible into the path of that Liberty. But his intel ship is basically going to have to work overtime to make sure that those TIE Bombers can bomb unmolested from those E-Wings and X-Wings on Robin's side. Ripper 998, yeah, that's possible that he's offering it up so that the MC30 can get away. But I think if I was Jason, I would just activate the Architans first. Like I would rather take the much higher chance of possibly crippling the MC30 over hoping one of my 3 red dice kills the thing. So this is just yeah. Squadron phase, the TIE Bombers that were already engaged with those E-Wings and X-Wings, just dealing their 1 black die worth of damage. So that looks like it's the conclusion of round 3. We're going to go into round 4. Depending on how quickly they do this round, they may have time for round 5. And as I mentioned before, if Robin can make this game get to round 5, he can possibly try to pick up that last objective token and deny Jason the victory points from Intel Suite. The MC30 is likely going for the VSD rear. He just has to be careful about because at this point he's lost almost all his shields on that MC30, and that combined with he doesn't have admonition title on that MC30, so he can't throw away double hits from a TRC Architins. But yeah, MRDRZXRO. Yeah, we do stream X-Wing actually. The last X-Wing event we streamed was the Canadian Nationals back at the end of September. If you go to our YouTube channel, so just look up VTTV Live or just youtube.com/VTTV Live. Yeah. So, but aside from that stream, yeah, we try to do streams once every month of all the FFG games that we cover. Generally, the X-Wing events are going to be the first weekend of every month at 401 Games, and if we're available, we'll try to stream it. However, this coming weekend might be different, just because we might be doing some Worlds coverage. Actually, that's happening for the non-Star Wars games. It's happening next weekend, so we might be doing some coverage based on that. So we may be skipping next month's X-Wing coverage. But we do have the Prototype Toronto League video. We just put up the semifinal video yesterday, and we're going to be putting up the final video. Well, we're going to be recording the final video tomorrow, and hopefully that video is going to go up by the end of next week. So Jason, he did a squadron command, and can't tell which ship that was from. Okay, that was. I think that was from. It was from the Arkansans, perhaps. He did a squadron command. And no. So Gazanti activated his two fighters. Looks like flacking here. So interesting that he didn't activate the Architins, but he may have just figured that he would still get a side arc shot from that MC30, even if it did move before the Architins activated. But this could also just be Jason trying to make sure that he doesn't lose that Gazanti from an errant activation from the Liberty here. So it looks like Robin's activating number 5, the flotilla. That one just has a comm set on it, I believe.
Yes, sir. Looks like I'm grabbing 5. Top 5.
So squadron token. Couldn't tell if that was combined with the squadron command or not, but X-Wings moving in to engage the TIE bombers to protect the Liberty. So, complete whiff there, fortunately. X-Wings I found, like, one of the... I think the generic X-Wings are just a case of just... It's kind of like the T-60s in the X-Wing miniatures game. It's just like a case of, like, not quite good enough. Their bomber die is atrocious. They have escort, which, I mean, if you really want it, like, honestly, I think that the YT-1300 has a much better escort ship than the X-Wing. It's just a jack of all trades, but it doesn't really do anything all that well. It doesn't really even, with the exception of comboing with things like Torn Far, it doesn't really even have a way to mitigate the variance of its anti-squadron dice, like a Swarm, for example, or anything like that. So, unfortunately, I think for its point cost, it's just not quite there. So Robin's going to activate, I think he's going at speed 3 here. And I think he did dial in a nav command and just did use the squadron activation token to activate one squadron. And it looks like he just overlapped one of his ships. Jason just decides to move it onto that corner there. So, back to Jason. So Jason at this point, I think he just has the... nope. Okay, Robin just forgot to do the flak from the GR75 against that shuttle. Turned up blank. So Jason just has the VSD and the Architons left, and I think you just go after the Architons here. Yeah. All right. So Jason says that he did a concentrated fire in the Architons, so this is gonna hurt, and it looks like it's medium range too. So he does have Robin does have the opportunity to disrupt a TRC die with that evade at medium range, but you know, if Jason rolls really well, this could just be curtains for the MC-30. So quickly transition over to the overhead camera. It looks like he rolled a natural crit hit double hit. So he's gonna TRC the regular hit, or okay. He's going to TRC the regular hit to a double hit, so it looks like a total of 6 damage coming through. Okay, so yeah, Robin's going to make him reroll double hit, so that just only reduces it from 6 to 5. And so yeah, Robin only has 1 shield on the rear and 1 shield on the left side, so he can only redirect 1 damage. He's going to be taking 4 here. Yeah, and I think that's actually curtains for Robin's MC-30 here. Yeah, 4 cards, yeah. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, they're just, yeah, so that's dead MC-30. So that was like a really lucky break for Jason, I think. And I think that's what he needed to put him back into this game here. So we're just going to figure out what the point total of that ship was. So that ship was worth 78 points. Plus, actually, I missed that, but Jason, he also picked up the 3rd Intel Sweep token for another 75 points. So that makes it 158 points for Jason. So the pendulum has swung in the other direction here. So 75 for the Intel Sweep, and then 78. So now the the onus really is on Robin here to make something happen. Not sure what he can do, fortunately. So the way Robin I think ends up winning this is that he's gonna have to combine the power of the Liberty's flak with his squadrons to try to take out as many TIE bombers as he can. He's gonna need to take out, I think, 3 TIE bombers is 27 points. That's not quite enough. Yeah. So he's gonna need to take out at least 4 TIE bombers or 3 TIE bombers and a shuttle in order to swing back ahead in this game. Ripper 998. I think he may have thought that he wasn't. It may be the case. I think I was mentioning earlier that no matter what the MC30 did, it wouldn't have been able to escape the side arc of that Architects. Now, he could have gotten the MC30 to a point where it was at long range, so he could have canceled a double hit, which I think would have allowed him to survive that attack. But yeah, I think that was a bit of a tactical error on his part. But nevertheless, I think what Robin's doing here is the correct course of action. You just have to take out as many TIE bombers as possible before the end of the game to try to close that point gap. But now, unfortunately, he's going to be, yeah. Fortunately, he might end up within black dice range. If he travels straight, it's close. But I think if he does a hard turn, that's definitely going to put him in close range because he's just swinging his ship so that the side is closer to him. Yeah. Yeah, Robin's hoping that one of the 3 red dice don't end up showing accuracy. All right, here it comes. So let's see. Concentrate fire. Did he get an accuracy? I don't think that was an accuracy. It looks like a critical. So that, yeah, and I don't think he didn't use the external racks, which a smart move because I don't think you have to use external racks. You use external racks basically in the same windows you would use a concentrate fire. You don't add the die until after you roll your initial attack. I could be wrong about that. So if I am, just correct me. So yeah, that was a bit of a break for Robin. So at this point, all Jason's ships have activated. I think, I believe Robin's only ship that hasn't activated. Well, sorry, there's 2 ships on Robin's side that haven't activated yet. So that's the objective flotilla ship and the Liberty there. So Robin's objective ship doesn't really matter anymore whether or not he can reach that final objective token, simply because Jason's already got the intel sweep objective.
Yeah, you definitely. It's very difficult to.
Okay. Just checking for engagement. Looks like he can engage. Looks like at least 1 hit there. It's hard to tell at this angle how much damage each of those TIE bombers have. I'm gonna assume he's trying to concentrate on the same TIE bomber with all of his ships. He does have 2 activations. Now it's hard to tell from this angle whether or not he had more than 1 squadron within activation range of his ship. It looks like it does. Okay, so it moves his E-wing, and he's gonna snipe. Looks like. Okay. Looks like 1 hit at least. 2 hits, perhaps. Yeah, that's. So I think he took out a TIE bomber there, so it puts another 9 points on the board for Robin.
I wonder what magical number we're gonna decide on.
Here comes the big black dice flak here. Okay, so it looks like another bomber went down, so that's another 9 points for Robin. He's closing the gap here. Two more hits. We are coming on 3 minutes left in the round, so yeah, 1 hit. This round needs to end very quickly if he hopes to get 1 more round of shooting, because it's really it's going to be whether or not they get into round 5 that really determines whether or not Robin's able to take this. He's taking all the shots, but I think he doesn't realize he's a little bit under the gun here. Yeah, so. So Robin's turning in towards the VSD. I do know he was chipping away at some of the damage at that point, but I don't know if assuming he gets another turn, if a front arc shot from the Liberty is going to be enough to take it out. But he does run over that entire ball of bombers. So Jason does have the opportunity here to redistribute them such that the squadrons don't get tied up here, because he can put the X-wings on the opposite end of the opposite side of the Liberty, and that disengages them from the bombers, which may be the smart thing to do here.
Oh, losing another 2 more. Were you hitting that?
43 seconds. Robin's going to have to do this squadron phase very quickly. Oh, okay, he does the engine techs, and I think that's going to be game here because he's not going to have enough time to do. He's not going to have enough time to do his other stuff. All right, so time has been called. This is going to be the last turn of the game. So this is turn 4, which means that the red tabbed squadrons are ones haven't activated. Now, all those TIE bombers haven't activated yet, but I don't think Jason's confident because I don't think any damage has been dealt to the Liberty this game. So I don't think that he's going to be able to do enough damage to kill off that Liberty. Yeah. Yeah, so I think they're just going to tally it up. I do have a point tally. You guys can verify it, but what I have right now is Jason, you have 158, and then Robin, you have 128. You can double check that, but I've been counting up as you go. Yeah, because you have 75 for the intel suite, right? Then you took out his 78 point thing, and then you took out a flotilla. Did you? No.
It's just the MC30 and the 75 from the.
Yeah, so 75 plus 78 is 158, right? Yeah, so that's that. And then you took out his Quasar, which was 72 points. And then his Gazante's 23 points, right? And then you took out 2 TIE bombers and a shuttle, right? And then, yeah, and so then I think that comes to 128. All right, so that's going to be the conclusion of today. So I'm going to try to chop up this video a bit and put up an abridged version, maybe in a week or two up on VTTV's YouTube channel. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We have one more game that we recorded that has me in it. And I'm going to try to see if I can put up some commentary to go alongside that game and put it up alongside this match. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitch, and we'll see you soon.